Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, February 11th in the year 2025, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, the Super Bowl has come and gone. It was interesting. It was a good game if you were for the Eagles. But I was glad for Jalen Hurts. I was really glad for him. I don't have anything against the Chiefs. But I said in the beginning it was surprising, and it really was surprising because they put a whooping on the Chiefs, beat down, as they say. So we'll see what happens next year. So Valentine's Day is upcoming. While chocolate seems to be the candy of choice for Valentine's, I also remember another popular candy. Do you remember, and this was mainly in elementary school for me, that you got one of those little heart-shaped hard candies with the cute love sayings with wording on it? And if you were sweet on somebody, you gave them one and then let them know how you were feeling about it. So I went out and got some just so you guys would know what I was talking about. And they have little sayings on them, of course, and you have the little thing, and this one says honey pie. Yep. That was Valentine's. And Valentine's, what is it? It's coming up this Friday. So I wish you all a good, happy Valentine's Day. We're rolling into the second week of Black History Month. I hope that you all there would take some time to educate yourselves or somebody else on the snippet of Black history and the contributions that it has made to this country. You know, we can all do something to ensure that we don't listen to the noise and the untruths regarding Black history. I received a call from an acquaintance, someone I know through sports, and he asked me if I would cut a brief tape regarding my own history and give it to the elementary school where his daughter taught. I did that. I gave them an elementary view of what integration was like in college football in the 1970s. The teachers really appreciated it, which made me feel good, and so did the kids. My satisfaction was that small piece of history, they got to hear it. For that small piece of history, they got to hear it directly from the horse's mouth, as they say. Our G-List guest today is Sylvester Ford. Mr. Ford is the owner of Alternative Finance and Business Strategies, a commercial finance and franchise consulting company, Black Label franchise based in Johns Creek, Georgia. The company arranges funding for business working capital, commercial real estate purchases and refinance, and economic development funding and franchise consulting. Prior to opening his own business, he worked in the housing finance industry for 15 years. And talking before the show this morning, we found out that we both worked at Bell South along with Michael Walker. So we look forward to hearing from Sylvester Ford. It should be a very interesting conversation. Our show today, of course, is brought to you by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. So let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl continues to customize the solution that fits your needs. So let's go to our roundtable regulars and talk with Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker this morning. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards. How are you this morning?
Good morning, sir. I'm doing so much better. Thank you. How are you?
Good. I was going to ask you how you were feeling as far as health-wise.
Health-wise, I'm feeling 1,000 times better. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Barbara. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So, Barbara, what you got for us this morning?
Well, Tom, first I want to
get any Valentine's candy yet?
Not yet. Oh, I don't eat candy, Tom. I don't do any sweets at all. So I'm looking for something else. Yeah, give mine to Michael, please. Let him eat my share.
Okay, go ahead, Barbara.
But I want to bring something to our viewers' attention that was mentioned to me on last night. One of our viewers, Jerry Jackson, sent something to me Congresswoman Terry Sewell will be hosting a emergency telephone town hall meeting this evening, Tuesday, February 11th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And the dial-in information is on your screen right now. Congressman Sewell is wanting to talk about what they're doing, the Democrats are doing to mobilize and work against Elon Musk and his invasion of Americans' privacy, the efforts to dismantle federal services and programs, and the tax on federal workers. So I think that's pretty important, and anyone that should try to dial in and join in that town hall meeting this evening.
And at what time is it again?
6:30 p.m. Central Time.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
And just for those who don't know, Congresswoman Sewell is a congressperson from Alabama.
Alabama, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, we'll look forward to it. But Michael, what you got?
Well, I've got a couple things, Tom.
I like it when I ask him what he's got and he smiles. So
I know. Must be some good stuff today.
A lot of it is your tagline and how you promote it, and that's why I was smiling. But
okay.
With this being February, it is Black History Month.
Yes.
And our new president-elect is getting rid of DEI and all the hoopla about that, but I got a feeling that that's still just going to continue and people are going to move forward. And with that being said, I always like to look at people that have made history and made contributions to society. But have you guys ever heard of a guy by the name of Larry Miller? Probably not.
I don't think so.
Larry Miller is the chairman of the Jordan brand, Michael Jordan's brand at Nike. He's the chairman of that for Nike. He also just happens to be the president of the Portland Trail Blazers.
Wow.
Yes. And he's a pretty interesting fellow. What's so amazing about him is that, he went to school at Temple University and he graduated with honors, and he had an interview with Arthur Andersen, one of the big 8 accounting firms. And he passed all the rounds and he got to the guy who was the hiring manager. And Larry Miller had a weight on his shoulder. You see, Larry had a tough beginning and what have you, but he had turned himself around. So when he was talking to the hiring guy, he told the guy about his story. And he said he could see the guy's facial expression change. And the guy said to him, "That's an amazing story. Wow." And he reached in his pocket and he pulled out an envelope and said, "I have an offer letter here that I was ready to give to you, but I can't give it to you. I can't hire you now." And so Larry said, at that point, he realized he had some decisions to make about moving forward. So he kind of just buried that story. And what it was that when he was a child growing up, he got involved in a street gang, crime, and he joined this gang in order to avenge the death of a member. And he ended up killing another teenager who he mistakenly believed was a person that killed his friend.
Wow.
And he ended up having to go to jail and serve his time and what have you. But since that time, he's right now graduated from Temple and with honors, chairman of Jordan Brand, and president of the Portland Trail Blazers. That's an amazing story for Black.
Yes, it is.
So he told the guy that story, that he had killed somebody and all that, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
It is.
It'd been a hard one, because that guy would have probably scared he'd lose his job if he hired the guy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wonder how he got to be the chairman of the Jordan brand. Did he know Michael Jordan?
I don't know. It didn't really say about that. He just talked about how he built his career, and for 40 years he had kept this a secret, even from Jordan. Jordan didn't know. Phil Knight didn't know. None of them. Wow. And he's just recently confessed to them, because what he has started is a new project called Jump. And, Jordan is known as Jump Man and stuff like this,
Yes.
right? So he started a new project, which is to help people that have been shortchanged by the system and help them reintegrate into society and become successful contributors to society. And so through this, he's starting to tell his story now, 40 years later, of how he, changed his life around.
It's amazing we don't know more about him, Michael, or hadn't heard any more about him. What was his name again? Larry Miller?
His name is Larry Miller.
Never heard of him. That's interesting.
Yeah,
probably
interesting.
He probably felt it wasn't in his best interest to publicize what he had done.
Publicize that part, but even the fact that he's, chairman of the Jordan brand, and president working with in the NFL. I mean, those things you would think would be something that's talked about a lot, but I didn't even know that about him. No. That is very interesting.
Somebody would surface.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. They do some research. I
remember him.
Yes.
He did so and so. That's an incredible story.
It is.
Obviously,
I thought it was.
But there's so much of our history. There's so much of our history that people don't know about, again, and they're trying to erase it from the history books. I have a similar, well, it's not that in that regard, but a little known Black history fact or American history in my mind fact that I did not know. Before there was a Julia Childs or Martha Stewart, before they became culinary household icons, there was a Black woman called whose name was Lena Richards, who's a culinary trailblazer who broke barriers in a deeply segregated America. She was born in Louisiana in 1892. And Miss Lena cultivated her passion for cooking in a time when opportunities for Black women were scarce. With her determination and talent, she made history and became the first Black woman in America to host her own cooking television show in the 1940s. That was unheard of. Yeah. And again, those type of things, you would think that would be common knowledge. People would, those things would be in our textbooks we would know about, but without doing research, those things are buried somewhere. We just don't know about that information. She ended up opening 2 very successful restaurants in New Orleans, and was a very successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we do have, Tom mentioned the Super Bowl, and for those people that were supporting Philly, congratulations.
Go Eagles.
Those that were supporting the Chiefs, you got there. You were in the big game. No hate towards
3 of the last 4 years. So
right.
That's right. So there's no hate towards anybody. Right. But there was a person that made history on Sunday. Her name is Autumn Lockwood. Yes. She is the first Black woman coach to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Wait a minute. It's okay. Oh, it's who she's coaching for?
The Eagles.
The Eagles.
Yes.
She is, and get this, she is the assistant performance coach for the Eagles.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
I guess she's in charge of performing enhancers.
Okay. Right. That's great.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
There's so many proud moments in this Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, MVP, who was
Jalen Hurts' whole team around him are young Black women.
All women. They're all women, and
person, his accountant, his
his manager, his agent. Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of those young ladies is an Auburn graduate. So that is amazing. He surrounded himself with I think 5 very talented women who are working with him. 3 of them I think are African American women, but that's phenomenal. And they asked him about his success and how he said the team he put together is just phenomenal. And they asked him, did he intentionally hire women? He said, I hired the best people for the job. They happen to be women. So all this stuff about DEI and, you lowering your standards when you're make a DEI hire, throw that out the window.
Well, we've all been there.
Yes.
And so when you've been there, we were talking before the show to Mr. Ford, who's our G-list guest. And, when you've been there, you know what the real deal is.
Absolutely.
You know what it is. Man, there were, my first job at Bell South was as a course developer. I wrote training courses, and you had guys who, because they were good installers, they let them write training courses.
Right.
Well, they couldn't write. And so just because they could install the phone doesn't mean they could write about installing the phone.
Right.
But they had the right complexion. So it wasn't a DEI thing. It was, quote, merit. Michael just kicked out of that merit thing.
That is hilarious.
And that's how so many people got into management that had no management skills. You know, they were the right complexion. They'd been on the job for a long time and they knew people. So they got hired in these positions, and so many companies have had downfalls as a result of it because they had the wrong people in management positions.
I think the only thing I find really ironic about DEI was, you know, when all the corporations were adopting it, all the CEOs would come out and talk about how wonderful it was,
right,
and how it helped their corporation,
yes.
And you know how everybody was involved and how they supported it, and they had all these programs and stuff. And then somebody started saying something negative, and they all ran and hid.
Yeah. Well, what was that meme we received this week? DEI stands for, Michael, I think you shared that with us.
Oh, that was Tom.
Oh, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember. But
Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka.
Yeah.
What DEI stands for. Yeah.
Well, you know, what's interesting is, you know, since the new president has come in, he's getting rid of DEI, right? Well, one of his departments, Department of Education, that he is terminating people, they all underwent his training for DEI when he was in his first term. So the various people that served under him in this agency, they went and participated in his training for DEI. And now he's turning around and he's terminating them because he's getting rid of DEI. So that is just too funny. You know, you can't make this stuff up. But also there's two articles here that I find a little bit ironic because, you know, the president now, he touted himself as a poor man's billionaire, or, you know, the everyday common American, you know, and is that base that's really kept him where he is and been his most vicious or ferocious supporters. Well, his policies now are starting to impact them, like the farmers. Most of the farmers around, well, by him freezing funding for agriculture grants and things that have already been approved, there are some farmers now that are in trouble. In particular, there's one guy that's in Missouri. He's about to lose his farm because he had signed a contract with the agriculture department. I think it's about between $280,000, $300,000 contract, where he was going to make these improvements on his farm in order to, you know, adhere to the standards and stuff for the environment and all of this, and to continue to produce cattle. Well, he did all this investment and stuff. Now they're freezing the funds, and he's out of his money.
Right.
Doesn't have the contract to move forward, and they don't know when he's going to get the money or if he's going to get the money. So now he's in jeopardy of losing his farm.
Yeah, and there's so many people in jeopardy
he didn't have.
Many people in jeopardy of losing their jobs as well, Michael. You know, they froze all the funding for National Health Institute of Health, and so places like University of Alabama, UAB, does a lot of research and get funding from the government. And now that's all being frozen. So a lot of those jobs are being affected. They're talking about laying off tons of people and just basically shutting down all of their research and development because the funding's not there any longer. And many of these people voted for the current president. And they're now they're second guessing, you know, who they voted for. It's too late for that, unfortunately.
You know, I've always said that I don't understand why when a president comes into office, their first thing is to get rid of everything his predecessor did, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, if you're coming in as the president, you're supposed to do what's best for the country. And if your predecessor implemented a program that's working and helping them, why get rid of it? Instead, enhance it. If you can enhance it and see ways to improve it, do that, and then move on and do stuff that makes sense. But by doing this, they talk about inflation and all of this. Well, it's all the things that he's doing is going to create chaos in the market.
Absolutely. Yes.
Exactly.
And it's going to run us further into inflation and into a possible recession than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's and I got it's so many. I don't know. It's so many contradictions. But he now wants to get rid of the foreign corruption practice agency. Like where you can bribe officials and stuff.
Right.
He wants to. He's getting rid of that.
Why? You know why, right?
I had to tell that, Tom. I thought you'd get a laugh out of it.
There's so many crazy things, Michael. I mean, they're talking about not making any more pennies because the cost of making pennies is higher than the value of the actual penny. So pennies and nickels, they may not be making those anymore, which is going to cause people either round up or round down on pricing. And our country is, we're not going to recognize it.
When you talk about the people who voted for him and were now surprised at what happened, I'm trying to think of the name of this movie, but it was about some guys who were doing some crooked stuff or what have you. But one of the lines in the movie was the greatest trick the devil ever did was to convince people that he didn't exist.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where we are.
Yes, that's what we're saying right now.
It's these people that he was going to be for them. And I don't know how they could go for that, but they did. And, that's where we are.
That's where we are.
Yeah. But Tom, you like that. He signed an executive order to get rid of the Foreign Corruption Protection Act and stuff. That's making. He says it's going to open it up and give America opportunity to do more business and stuff.
Corrupt business. He forgot that one word, corrupt business.
I always revert back to that guy who was at Exxon. Can't think of his name.
Rex Tillerson.
Yeah. Rex called him a moron. And they asked him if he said it. He said, "Yeah, I said it." Oh Lord. Well, hopefully we'll all move along and things will get better. I feel bad. What I really, and you talk about, Barbara, you just talk, but you think about the colleges, man.
Yes.
And professors who are losing their job
right.
for doing their job.
Right.
And students who can't learn history and stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Right.
So anyway, anything else from either one of you?
One other thing I want to mention real quick, Tom, Toyota has issued 2 safety recalls that involve more than 140,000 vehicles. So if you own a 2024 or 2025 Toyota Tacoma or a 2025 Toyota Camry, Lexus NX, or Lexus RX models, they're having some recalls. So go out and check those if you're owner of those vehicles and make sure you get your car in to get service for those safety recalls.
Well, I own a 2007 Toyota Highlander, and it's great. And
I was going to say, you're not having any problems with that one, are you?
You know what? No, the guy at the Toyota place, they're always trying to buy it from me.
Oh yeah, they know it's a well-made car.
They don't make these kind anymore.
Right. Right.
Well, anyway, anything else from anybody? Mm-hmm. Well, let's go to Sean. She's got a minute, then we'll go to our G-list guest.
Welcome to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute. It's Black History Month, and to keep the ball rolling, on this day in 1909, a group that included African American leaders such as W.E.B. Du Bois and Ida B. Wells, announced the formation of a new organization called the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It would have a profound effect on the struggle for civil rights in the course of the 20th century America. The conference that led to the NAACP's founding had been called in response to a racist riot in Illinois. The founders also noted the disturbing trends of lynching, which reached their peak not during or immediately after the Civil War, but in the early 1890s and early 1900s. As segregation laws took effect across the South, white supremacists once again gained total control of state governments. Many of the organization's early members came from the Niagara Movement, a group created by Black activists who were opposed to the concepts of conciliation and assimilation. It remains the largest and oldest active civil rights group in the nation and emphasizes on voter registration, legal defense, and activism. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Tom, we have the G list. And our G list guest today is Mr. Sylvester Ford. Mr. Ford is the owner of Alternative Finance and Business Strategies, a commercial financing company, and a franchise consulting company. So let's hear from Mr. Ford, and we'll move forward. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm fantastic on this bad weather day here in Atlanta. Laura, it's raining. It's dreary.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And,
well, I was just thinking, we got three of us on here who all worked at Bell South, and I guess that was good. It was good for me. I hope it was good for everybody else.
so, I had a good 10-year run. I enjoyed it there.
That seems to be the tenure. Mine was about 9 years.
Yep. You know, the corporations are not a place that will give you that 20, 30 years that mom and dad got. Well, my dad, during that time beforehand, women were not in the workforce as they are today. And if they were not usually given those type of runs. It was usually a majority male-dominated company at the top. The women were operators and stuff. It started. We had some women managers that started moving up the ranks, and being a little country boy, I didn't understand that at that time initially that really they were just beginning to get a foothold in corporate America. So as an African American male, I was a little bit down the totem pole, but I was thankful for the opportunity. Corporate America trains us well, educates us, gives us tools in order to flourish and to move forward into our own opportunities. Yeah, so I'm thankful for that.
My first, well, no, it was my second manager at Bell South was a woman, and she was the second level manager. And we got along great. We'd go in there and talk, and she did right by me, and I tried to do right by her. So worked out well. Let's see, Michael, you got a question for Mr. Ford?
Well, yes, I do. I will say this, since this is also Black History, Mr. Ford himself was a little piece of history. Along with myself, we were the founding members of the Gwinnett County NAACP charter back in the that was like the mid 80s, I think.
It was 88. It was 88.
Wow. 88.
Wow.
The NAACP did not have a charter or a presence in Gwinnett County, and Sylvester and myself and another gentleman by the name of Irvin Kimball, who unfortunately passed away a couple months ago, we were the three leaders and part of the charter and founding members of the NAACP in Gwinnett. So we did a little bit of history ourselves there, Sylvester.
Yeah, yeah. It was a great time. Gwinnett was looking for diversity. Uh, I think Lillian Webb, who was chairperson of the county commission, she embraced the organization, and a lot of business people embraced the organization. They wanted to make sure that Gwinnett was seen as a welcoming community. And it is, and it has been. I was in Gwinnett for, I guess, 20 years almost, and then I left and was in Clayton County, Georgia, for a while, and then back to Gwinnett. And now it's a little difficult to recognize. It is, when Michael and I worked on the NAACP, it was basically white, predominantly white, 90% predominantly white during that period of time. And now it is the largest minority majority county in the state, and maybe in the Southeast. It's the largest one, I think, also in the Southeast. Wow. When we're talking about almost 1 million people. I think 28% is African American, about 23% is Hispanic, a little 5 or 6 is other, maybe 7% others, and Asian community, and then it's about 39% white. And now you have a African American chairman of the county commission. And that was something that when Michael and I came to the county and were living, there wasn't not one African American politician. Now you have, I think, 3 commissioners that are African American. You got a young man, I think, is a Korean. So 4 of the 5 are now minorities, and you have, I think, Craig Newton over in Norcross is an African American mayor. You have numerous city council people that are African American around the community. And it's not like it was when we first got here, that when you saw someone that was African American, you want to make sure you wave and everything. Now, the population of African Americans in Gwinnett County is pretty close to the whole population that's in Clayton County that is seen as a predominantly African. That is a majority African American community, with 78% of the county being African American. But we've got about 288, almost 300,000 blacks here in Gwinnett County, and I think it's a very, very well kept secret that this is a very large minority community that has resources, is very well educated in most instances, and is kind of a jewel that hopefully in the next 20 years, the story will be not about the Black population in the southern portions of the metro Atlanta area, but the strength of the Black population that's now in the Gwinnett counties, in Hall counties, and the northern arc of metro Atlanta. So, and I think that's going to be a good thing for business, and not necessarily DEI, but for us to continue to do business. And I'm going to be speaking on something similar to that on Saturday. But even though we are under attack as far as a community, I had a conversation with a gentleman yesterday who was one of our funding sources. And the first thing he says to me, things are great now. And I wonder what things are great about. No more DEI. People will be hired on merit.
Wow.
And, I said, well, and I sit down, I said, he said, aren't you glad with what Trump's doing? I said, well, there are some things there that needs to be addressed that he does, not necessarily on the lines of DEI, because there's a tremendous number of people that are not part of the PWI community that are great at what they do and are even better than many that are in positions. And they did not get there just because of the color of their skin. And I gave him some examples that I went through and said, look, I think this thing is overblown about people getting non-merit opportunities. Most people who are in corporate have been hired by someone who's non-white, so they're going to look at them pretty subjectively. And yes, you're going to see more people, if all things are equal, of the various ethnic groups being involved in what's going on, as far as being playing a role in corporate America, unless it's a pushback, in which we are going through a pushback stage. We're going through what now I'm saying is almost like a Jim Crow type of era. I see, and I'll talk about this Saturday, though, and just briefly to state, Barack Obama was probably the initiation of the modern era of Reconstruction. And we all know after a period of time, after about 10, 15, 20 years, there was a significant blowback against Reconstruction. A deal was cut with Rutherford B. Hayes in order for him to help him win the presidency. And he had agreed to pull out the Union soldiers out of the South who were addressing many of the issues far as from that Reconstruction was doing. And then we got the Jim Crow laws, or the black codes, in many of the southern states that put in the poll taxes, and because you had gotten a significant number of black politicians, far as like in Mississippi and South Carolina, who were doing well in Congress until the black codes were enforced. The rise of some of the hate groups that came into pass, that similar to today, that see anything that is not of the white community is being less than. And because that's what we're hearing that's what we're hearing as far as from some of the militia groups. That's what we're hearing from a lot of the people, such as Elon Musk, who talks about that they've got to be super brains. And when he talks about that, he acts as if anybody who is not of white descent is not one of those super brains. And so when you start seeing that, that's why we realize that the black community must get back, in essence, to the types of communities that we had in the 1950s that were cohesive, that did business with each other, that had their own. That's why I like franchising, and that's why I also think franchising and funding goes hand in hand, because you need the capital in order to be able to get into business today and to stay in business. Far as franchising offers an opportunity for a little guy who can be of some other ethnicity to put that brand out there and be able to attract clients, regardless if he's not, and as long as he don't put his picture as the owner of the place. I say I own it. If it's a fast food restaurant, there are many African American McDonald's operators, but if you notice, you don't see a whole lot of them trying to say this is black owned and operated, because that takes away far as the power of the brand from a standpoint. Some people can walk in and automatically, just as people said the Super Bowl halftime, because it had African American entertainers there, was garbage, they'll say the same thing, but just because they see that picture, for those who are real haters. So, that's one of the reasons that I enjoy promoting franchises. Not a whole lot of us as franchise consultants, and I urge more and more people to get involved. It's tough business. No, you're not going to get a salary. You're going to have your own agency, such as an insurance person or a real estate person, but it allows for us to help people make career decisions. Like, as I was saying, when you leave the Bell South, and AT&Ts and some of the and any other great corporation, you usually got a 9, 10, like you were saying, 10, 15-year run. And, you come in out of college full of hope and aspiration that you're going to be maybe president of that corporation one day. Like similar to when I was sitting in the student union and I saw a guy and they said, that's the student body president. I said, oh, okay, that's student body. I looked at him and I said, he's a nice guy, though, but I think I can be student body president too at one point in time I was. Well, the corporation is not as easy.
I don't know if you guys remember, but at Bell South, one of the first things you did when you got there, you sat and you put down the highest office that you aspired to, where you thought you could land at some point in your career. I put down president. And the guys working with me said, well, you can't be president. I said, well, why? Well, you just can't. Said, why?
They didn't want to. They
didn't want to say it.
So yeah, it was interesting. Barbara, you got a question?
I do. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I know you did spend 10 years at Bell South and 15 years in the housing finance industry. And then you went out and became an entrepreneur. What motivated you to become an entrepreneur and get in business for yourself?
Well, initially it was when I was in housing, I was coming in business for myself.
Okay.
As a broker, finance broker. But then, after the housing crisis, and I saw that housing, it wasn't a whole lot of money. I did a lot of subprime and FHA lending. And I looked around and we had about 300 lenders that were in the marketplace. And when all 300 of them went out of business after the Bear Stearns fall, Bear Stearns, we used to loan out some of Bear Stearns' money, some of Lehman's money. They were in housing deep, much deeper than people thought. They had direct to Lehman, they had direct to Bear Stearns. Then they had a lot of what they call correspondents that were super brokers that work on their behalf. And I wonder what else can I get involved in? And I started studying a little bit on two things. I knew lending at one time would come back, sometime would come back, but franchises.
Right.
And, I was working, I also went back and was working on my MBA as far as at the University of Phoenix. I initially just wanted to I didn't think I'd go with the entire thing. I said, let me take 1-2 classes, MBA level, see what's happening. And I got in, I liked it. I'm competing with them young people and, I'm 50 at the time. Right. I'm thinking I'm 48, 49, and they all in their late 20s, early 30s.
Right.
I said, I got to show these young folks what I got to keep them. I'm not going to use that term. I got to let them know that there's privileges in getting to senior status. And there's advantages about getting to senior. You got a lot of experiences, life experiences, especially in business. And my thing was, I can't let these little young whippersnappers beat me out. So my thing was to try to read my material, do all my discussion questions, do more than just what I was supposed to do. Be prepared for class, because I went to class. I wasn't online. I had one online class. The rest of it was the rest of it was in person. And of course, they called me the teacher's pet because we get into some deep, high-level business conversations, and because from my experiences, and I ended up all right, 3, 4, 3, 5. If I had turned all my lessons in on time, I'd been valedictorian. But I still was kind of slow on pecking on that typewriter. I went to sleep a lot in typing, so I was slow. I might be 30 minutes late on getting everything in, something like that. But if I hadn't missed some those deadlines, and I think I could have been valedictorian. But I was happy where I was at. But I began to my paper was about franchising, far as the thesis, and they call it the capstone. How do you put a company? How do you grow a company? They ain't got no money. After the company then expanded 3 or 4 locations, and they run out of money. You don't have any investors that want to come in and to support your initiatives. If they do, they want to buy you out and kick you out as the president or the CEO, bringing on their own people. We see that every day. That's business,
right?
And it's business. And I said, franchising, because I had been in some crystals and things of that nature, and McDonald's, thinking about who really owns those, and you never know who really owns those.
Right.
When you go in, it's usually not the picture of the manager and the family. I said, oh. Then I started doing a lot of research on franchising. You know how you can just, start researching something and researching stuff and start falling in love with what you're studying about. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. And I was able to, once I finished up, that was our last class, turned in paper and all that good stuff. I began to say, how can I get involved in this industry? I ain't never met a black franchise broker. This 2010, 2011. Today, if you ask somebody who do they know a black franchise broker, most 99.9% of the American public will say no. And then another good portion, even of the white community, are going to still ask, what is a franchise broker? So it's not like we are an insurance agent or a real estate agent that have been around for that industry, that have been around, those industries have been around for probably a couple hundred years. The concept of a franchise broker really didn't really start really jumping off until 60s, 70s. Wasn't a whole lot of African Americans involved in franchising at all until 1970s. The 1970s brought about something that was called urban renewal. That was pushed forward by the Nixon administration. And it was done for 2 reasons. Number one, there were the riots that had just taken place in the late 60s. Right. And the Nixon administration was wondering, how could they show in these inner cities that have been destroyed by the riots, the Chicagos, the Clevelands, the Detroits, the LAs, and many other major cities in the country, that there's opportunity. And what they began to urge companies to do, such as McDonald's and Burger King, was to bring in black. It was surprising that the Nixon administration pushed a agenda of getting African Americans into franchising. Number one, they thought that, first of all, in some of these distressed communities, if you put forth the picture of success by bringing in black executives who would have a McDonald's, of course they had to qualify, because getting into a McDonald's ain't cheap. They had to, the real estate had to be taken in consideration. The brand, somebody who would adhere to the brand standards. So, because a lot of people, you hear it, a lot of people say, who back then who worked with a lot of those companies, got a chance, who had the honor of being an employee at McDonald's. You got a chance to wear the uniform. You had standards that you had to follow. You were considered to be someone in the community that had to maintain a certain level of professionalism. And the Nixon administration thought that would be a good role model opportunity, because it was regimented. The corporate franchises are very regimented. You've got your recipe, and you cannot deviate from the recipe. And, you know, for instance, you know, you get to be a successful franchise. You know, Mac, I'm trying to see what's Mac's last name. He was a McDonald's operator at the airport here in Atlanta, one of the first African Americans to do that. You see, he was on the PNC commercial. If I looked at my contact, I can tell what his last name is. Oh, the guy, he's in his 80s now. Mm-hmm. And was one of the first McDonald's owners here in America. Done great job. He contributes to philanthropy, and also, you know, he's always willing to talk about franchising. But the fact that franchising is a recipe, a business in a box, it is allowed for a lot of people to make a lot of money. You know, quiet as it kept, you know, Shaq is very big in the franchising industry. I think he's got his own chicken franchise now. Mm-hmm. As far as that is his. And I think it's not Slim Chickens, but it is a chicken franchise. And it's real strong. You know, Nene owns some franchise, and Junior Bridgman is also a name that we didn't stand out in the NBA. Similar, he did stand out, but not as well as Shaq's name was. He owns all these Burger Kings, and I think he might have even been into the Arby's business a little bit. Serena, one of the Williams sisters, I can't remember where it's Serena or his sister. Venus, whether they I can't remember which one, but they're into franchising. And franchising beginning to become something people say I will consider. But, you know, franchising is not for the faint of heart or not for people who don't have any money.
Well, let me ask you this in terms of you worked at Bell South, Michael worked at Bell South, I worked at Bell South, Barbara worked at Blue Cross. And now we all are entrepreneurs to it, in a sense, in different areas. Why do you think that? Why do you think we all left corporate America? Michael started his business, you started yours, I started mine, Barbara started it. Why do you think we went that route?
Well, you know,
anybody can answer that, but go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, corporate America, it's just like a football team. You know, you're going to be there for a while, you know, a period of time. And they're always trying to bring in younger people, you know, to come in. They never want to be heavy at the top with much older people. You know, our healthcare costs are going to be higher on them. We're going to be taking more benefits, things of that nature. They're going to be younger and faster and with more zeal as they initially to come in until they find out the real deal that they will not be the CEO of the company. And that's the next most logical thing for us to do is to attempt to believe in ourselves, believe that the training that we've got both in many instances college and also at our corporate location, those skill sets can be transferred for us to be able to do things on our own. And so that's why I think a lot of people after they leave corporate, and a lot of people, you know, with the downsizing of government and the downsizing of some of the corporations and the pushbacks or the fallbacks away from DEI and some of the other things, whether or not you're DEI hire or not, that's it's not really relevant. But I think it's going to make us stronger because now we're going to have to get out there on our own, especially some of the older people. And once they're in their 40s, 50s, they're not going to, you know, people ain't going to want to hire us just off the bat. So I think that it offers an opportunity for people to continue to own their own businesses. But I think that's why it's going to be the golden era for franchising for the African-American communities. I really do. I think it's going to open up opportunities to be able to get involved because, you know, with franchises, over 300 different industries are out there, over 3,000 different franchises are out there. And it will allow for us, especially African American community. It's a tremendous amount of opportunity in just like the home services area. Their franchises that cover the roof, everything on the exterior, everything on the interior, everything around the home. And those are dollars that are spent in the African American community. If those dollars can be brought back into our community, then basically what that means is that the people who take on those type of companies will do well.
Barbara, Michael, you got a comment, a question?
Well, I'd just like to respond to your question, Tom. In addition to what Sylvester, I think also you get to a point where there's not any runway left. And what I mean by that is that you have outgrown the position they pegged you for. You've done a great job in that position, but one thing, they never pegged you to go any higher. In other words, you got about maybe this much latitude. And so once you've outgrown what they saw for you, then the only way for you to reach your full potential was to do it externally, because you wouldn't get the opportunity internally.
Okay.
In my instance, I stayed at Blue Cross 29 years, so I really had a career there, but just got really tired of the corporate environment and wanted to just kind of do some things on my own and start do some consulting work on my own. So was there much longer than the 9-10 years. It went by quickly. So.
Okay. All right. Anybody else got a question for Mr. Ford? Mr. Ford, you got any more comments?
Well, I just want to just say, also, if you got a great business, it doesn't matter what color you are. If you got a great merit-based business that can be duplicated, that provides a service, and that can be scaled, we love to turn you into a franchise and market you and put you on the open market. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think you'll see consolidations, and then once they're consolidated, a couple of companies, that now you got a super management team, you got the ability to raise a little bit of money, and for us to develop you into a franchise, and then put you on the market and take you to market just like if you were a stock, but you're not. And this is totally a lot of this is unregulated, and I think that's where a lot of opportunities are going to be at also.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Mr. Ford, if someone's interested in reaching out to you, how should they contact you?
Well, my website is www.blacklabelfranchise.com, or on the funding side, and people always remember that, www.whenbanksayno.biz. Okay. And my telephone number is 678-896-6476. You can also contact me on LinkedIn. It's Sylvester Ford, MBA. Just send me a short note, and or reach out to connect with me and send me a short note, and I will return your call or return your email.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you there, Mr. Ford. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank everybody for having me today. I certainly appreciate it. Just sharing. I hope I didn't over talk my time, but
well, you did. You did.
Thank y'all very much, and I look forward to working with everyone in sometime in the future. Thank you very much.
I'll just say this is very interesting, but also I don't think that a lot of people who are interested, who are first-time entrepreneurs, or who are looking for something to get involved in, I don't think a lot of people think about franchising.
Right.
And so it's good that we've had this discussion, and it's good that you brought those things out, because I mean, it's a good way to go.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I like to come back, because we're going to be opening up a program similar to, I think Michael was involved back in when we were with the NAACP, called first-time franchise buyers or first-time business owners, and we hopefully be able to convert them to understanding that being a first-time franchise buyer is the way to go. And we'll provide training as far as getting their credit right, being able to know their numbers, and to do the things necessary so they can get into a franchise and be able to start really, like I said, get out there with everybody else. Because if you're at McDonald's, they don't know who you are. There's nothing getting in your way of being able to attract opportunity by being in a franchise. Thank y'all very much, and y'all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, man. All right. Okay, my closing comment for today, or as I see it, one of the things we like to point out on TWT is our diverse audience, all ages, education levels, ethnicities. I did mention all ages, right? Even when they're very young. So, I'd like for you to check out this photo here of one of our regulars that comes up. That is the youngest member of our team, Isaiah Yaranon. He's checking out an episode of TWT. Isaiah is the son of Emily and Jay Yaranon, Emily Hedrick. He is a regular, and we'll talk to him after the show here. And I just wanted to put that picture up and show he's watching and actually watching an episode of TWT. So that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank Mr. Sylvester Ford for the information. We appreciate you. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. Thanks again for the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, Joyce, and Isaiah. And that's it for this February 11th in the new year 2025. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.